So I'm gonna be the next speaker. I guess we are 15 minutes late, but I can assure I'm gonna make it short in order to get the lunch, at the right time. So I'm going to talk now about the GFSI. GFSI stands for Global Food Safety Initiative. I'm going to explain to you, how by working together, we will be able to reduce barrier to trade in order to be able to feed the global population demand. So before talking about the GFSI, I want to share with you, a few challenges that the food industry will be facing over the coming years. The first one is going to be really important. The global population is expected to grow up to 9 billion people from the current 7 billion people. Huge increase, right? And on top of that, 3 billion people will join the middle class by 2050. This accounts for 40% of the current population. And this middle class has got different demands. That means they want to get high quality food, more diverse food, and for sure, safe food. So how can we meet, this increased demand? What we should manage, which is really important, is one world, one safe food supply. The global food system is more complex than ever, even before. And in order to meet consumer demand, the food industry will have to double or even triple the food production. This is really a growing challenge. As you know, food moves rapidly across country and between continents. Food travel without any passport and visa. That means a food ingredient can land on your plate, and you will never know from which country this ingredient has been supplied. Just an example, just to illustrate my point, I want to share a few information about a pizza. A pizza, it's a commodity, and for many of us, there are only 4 ingredients: the crust, the topping, cheese. And if we look at the ingredient list, we can find, which is staggering, 35 ingredients. And these ingredients are supplied from 60 different countries, from 5 different continents. When I say food knows no border, it's really true. And this is a good example of that. Just to share with you, the global food safety governance throughout the world. In the middle, you have got the supply chain from farm to chopstick. As a starting point of the food regulation, we have the Codex. The Codex has been set up to ensure a safe and fair international trade. They set up food safety standards. That means the limit of contaminants that you can find into a product. And this is a starting point of every food safety management. Now, in order to ensure the enforcement of that and a so-called product control, country can adapt the Codex requirements, the Codex standard. They can be more demanding than the Codex, but they should not create barrier to trade. And every government should implement, the food regulation, the way to enforce it, and the penalties that could be linked to that. And this is our the enforcement. But if you want to get products which should be safe, we should put in place management system in order to ensure the delivery of safe food to consumer. And for that, starting from the codex as well, we have got the codex guidelines, the hygiene guidelines, and in order to put it in place, because you cannot be certified against the codex best practices, there is a standard which is called international one, which is called ISO, and ISO is a good vehicle to put in place the HACCP principle. The food industry right now is facing a lot of food safety management schemes that they have to comply with. And we need harmonization in order to avoid being obliged to be compliant with an array of food safety schemes. And that's what the GFSI is doing in order to ensure convergence and harmonization in food safety requirements. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk what we have been doing in China to get mutual recognition and convergence in food safety standard. So, the GFSI is a business-driven organization, and the GFSI mission is to ensure the delivery of safe food to consumer worldwide. And to do so, to continuous improvement in food safety management system in order to ensure the delivery of safe food to consumer. That means by working together, how can we get convergence and harmonization in food safety requirements in order to make easier the global trade? And we know that it should be facilitated because we will have to feed 9 billion people, and we cannot do it by setting up food regulation that can differ country per country. So harmonization is highly required. So there is a GFSI board, and the GFSI bring together, as you can see, well-known international companies. I used to be for 3 years the chairman of this organization. As you can see, we have got 2 Chinese companies. The first one is COFCO, and it's really important to get a big Chinese player on board. And we have got as well a retailer called China Resource Vanguard. So by bringing together companies from the US, Europe, China, Japan, South America, we can get a global picture of the food chain. And how can we get this harmonization? On top of the board of directors that bring together international companies, we have got a new platform to ensure the implementation of what is decided globally. As you can see, many companies are part of the GFSI technical committee and part of the stakeholder committee as well to provide us with information about what food safety stakeholders expect and how can we set up the right strategy to ensure the delivery of safe food to consumer, not only locally, but internationally. So that are the GFSI objectives. The first one for sure, which is the most important, is to reduce food safety risks throughout the food chain, from farm to fork. And as you know, your food chain is as strong as its weakest link. If there is a weak link somewhere, you can be sure that you can get a problem. But we should do it by managing costs. We don't want to develop safe food and let people starve in front of safe foods. That means the food should be available and affordable. Should be safe, but available and affordable is as well really important. And as you know, it's a platform bringing together companies from different parts of the world. And it's a good platform for knowledge exchange, networking, and best practice sharing. And what we have been doing as well, we know that everything can take shape around people's knowledge and expertise. And that's why developing competencies and knowledge, capacity building is something which is really important. So what are the main actions that the GFSI is doing? The first one, this has been done in order to get convergence and harmonization and help benchmark food safety scheme to get equivalency. So there is a GFSI guidance document that specify the food safety requirement that the food safety scheme should take, and how to implement and monitor it. And it's helped to manage a benchmarking process. If you want to get information about the GFSI guidance document for convergence in food safety scheme to help benchmark scheme against one against the other, you can get the information. And a set of international food safety scheme has been recognized, has been benchmarked first, and recognized as equivalent. That means if your company is certified against one of the GFSI recognized schemes, once you are certified, it's accepted everywhere, accepted by all the companies that follow, you know, the GFSI initiative. So is this by create equivalence? We don't want to get one. What we want to get, one food safety standard. We want to get equivalences. Today, you know, if you look at how the food safety standard work, we have got SQF in the US, mainly BRC in England, IFS in Germany, FSSC 22000, which is ISO-based international. And what about China? Do you have in China an international standard that can be recognized everywhere? As we learned this morning, China is going to export a lot to Europe and to the US. You should get recognition of your food safety management system in order to ensure the delivery of safe food, not only locally, but globally. And as we said this morning, food production, the food business, is as a foundation of the country economy. So just to explain you know, what can be the benefit of that, all these standards are recognized by many companies. And this can reduce duplication of cost and audit. And this is really important. That means when one of our supplier, Danone supplier, is certified against one of these standards, we don't ask more. That means we know that the food has been produced in a manner consistent with international food safety requirements. So we have got a set of standards which has been benchmarked and recognized as equivalent. Now, is it enough? No. What we need on top of that, it's operating skill. That means food operators should know how to manage it. Because if you have a state-of-the-art standard, but if nobody in your company can manage it, can implement it, it's of no use. And we need as well, in order to get security of what has been done, we need auditor competence. It's really important to get third-party auditors with the right expertise and knowledge to make it. So to ensure product integrity, we have got a set of food safety schemes which are recognized as equivalent. And on top of that, what we're going to need and what we have been doing, it's additional plans to make product integrity happen. And what's that? We have 2 integrity programs, and because as Professor Chen said this morning, food safety is a matter of social and political stability, it's a matter of social, I would say, of local economy, of country reputation as well. It's really important to work hand in hand with the government officials. And how can we get recognized what is being done by government members? And on top of that, we said this morning that communication is everything. How can we communicate what we have been doing? So, what has been done in terms of integrity programs? The first one is a global market program, a capacity building program, which has been set up in order to help small and less developed companies on their journey towards certification against one of the GFSI recognized schemes. And on top of that, it has been clearly defined the minimum set of competence that an auditor should get in order to conduct an audit. You can get all of that through the net, mygfsi.com, and you're going to get the information. How can we build up, bridge the gap in private and public? Because we should share the same end game. And as well, we should prove, you know, the efficacy of whatever we do. And for that, we have got a GFSI efficacy study. And you can get access to the result of this study as well to prove you know, what are the cost benefits that a company can get by being certified once and be accepted everywhere. So now I'm going to talk about China. What is being done by the GFSI in China? We know that GFSI is a global organization, but our consumers and the food regulation is local. And we should customize what is being done at the global level to the local requirements. And as well, what is really important is to take advantage of the local evolution in order to adapt the global strategy. We are a so-called global organization, global strategy, local implementation, but the local implementation can fit the global strategy. China, we already talked about that this morning. It's a really fragmented food industry business. That means we have small companies, dairy farmers with 1 cow, up to dairy farmers with 36,000 cows. That means it's really diverse, and everything we do should be adapted to small and big businesses. We know that how food safety is important in China. China consumer consider food safety as a top social concern above high food price and corruption. That means, as I said this morning, food is everything. And the China public opinion is 74% are more concerned about the food industry than it was 2 years ago. That means the situation is getting worse. In spite of the evolution of the food regulation, in spite of all of that, that means the consumer still believes that the situation is getting worse. The food has never been as safe as today, but nevertheless, consumer perception is not good. And the Chinese consumer, we talked about this morning, are willing to pay a price premium for food safety certificate and traceability features. That means for them it's really important to understand, you know, how the food has been produced. So that's why what has been done, because the GFSI should ask locally, we set up a GFSI local group, which is going to be called China Food Safety and Certification Initiative. It has been done in partnership with CNCA, IQSAQ. That means it's really important to get private and public together. And we need, at the beginning, we have got already 28 or companies that are going to be part of the China Food Safety Initiative. We should need more. That means if your company want to be part of this initiative, let us know, and we're going to be pleased to integrate it into this local group. So that's going to be the organization. That means a memorandum of understanding going to be signed between GFSI and China Food Safety Initiative. We're going to get an advisory committee. Advisory committee going to bring together academia and government representative from CNCA, IQSAQ, China Food and Drug Administration. and the steering committee, which should be business-driven, going to bring together companies that can help translate the global strategy into local implementation. And to make it easier, we're going to set up working group. As you can see, you know, food fraud is one of the working group which has been set up because, as Professor Chen said, it's a burning issue. About, I said before that you know, there are international standards, and today there is no Chinese international standard. And that's why what we have been doing, we are benchmarking the Chinese HACCP food safety standard against the guidance document in order to get the global recognition of this standard. And a memorandum of understanding has been signed with CNCA and AQSAQ in order to make it happen. That means the Chinese standard has been set up. We are benchmarking this standard against international requirements. And at the end of the process, the Chinese standard is going to be recognized internationally. That means when you're going to be certified against this standard, this will help supply your product to the US, to Europe. And we are in a home stretch. That means we do believe that by end of August, the process is going to be fully implemented. So it's going to be really important. I talk about global trade. And we're going to get now a Chinese standard which is going to be internationally recognized by international companies. And this is going to be a big breakthrough in order to help China export product to the world, because as you know, no country will be self-sufficient in food. As I said this morning, everything can take shape around people's expertise and knowledge. In order to help small businesses in China to be certified against one of these GFSI recognized schemes, a capacity building program has been set up. This capacity building program has been translated by Shanghai Jiaotong University in Mandarin, and the basic program has been already implemented. That means we have a basic one, we have an intermediate one, and thanks to the support from universities in China, Shanghai Jiaotong University is the first one, but we're going to get, as well as a partner, we're going to get the Beijing University of Agriculture. That means now a tool is available in order to help your small suppliers to understand what international requirements means and how can they translate that into food safety management system. That I already talked about that. It's a partnership between GFSI and the governmental organization. Is doing extremely well. Last Monday, I met the Minister of China Food and Drug Administration, and we talked together about private-public partnership and how can we make things happen, because down the road, companies going to be responsible for producing and sourcing safe food. That means they can provide the food safety policies, they can set it up, but what we need in order to implement it, we need companies. And this should be business driven. That's why private and public should play a great role in this field. And communication is everything. That means that's why it's really important to convey the message about what's the role of the GFSI. By the way, a GFSI Focus Day is going to be held at the end of August. May I strongly advise you, to take part in. You're going to hear a bit more about what has been done in China, the success story of Chinese company that were able to and the GFSI recognized scheme and the benefits they got from that. Yesterday year, we got as a speaker the Vice Minister of China Food and Drug Administration. It was really important because he laid emphasis on the private-public partnership. Private-public partnership can play an instrumental role in improving food safety around the world. And this is his statement. You can get it through the net as well. I met twice the Minister of China Food and Drug Administration, once in Paris last December and 3 days ago, by the way, in Beijing, because food safety is a burning issue is really high on business and government agendas. And it's only by working together that we can make it happen. So that are those private-public partnerships that a global organization like the GFSI can set up, because we have the credibility to do it. As already said, we bring together food safety experts around the world that know, how the food safety is managed country per country. And by sharing this information, we can get a global platform that can help get convergence and harmonization between food safety schemes. So that is in a nutshell the message that I want to convey to you. I was unable to catch up the time, but we are already 10 minutes late. If you are, by the way, the Chinese representative, chief representative of the GFSI is in a meeting room right now. If you want to get information, you can contact her. She will provide you with whatever you always wanted to know about the GFSI, but afraid to ask. Thank you for your attention. I guess we are 10 minutes late. I can get one question, or if you have any question, but I'm gonna be here all over the day and tomorrow as well, partly. So if you have questions, you can directly address it to me. Thank you for your attention. Have a good lunch and see you at 2. Is that right? Yeah. At what time? 2. So you have plenty of time to get relaxed. Thank you for your attention.